Last time, on Epic 7 Abridged, Tenebria intercepted the party on their way to absorb the Archdemon's might held in the Tagahel Ruin Sanctum. Ras saw his old friends, Mercedes became suicidal, and Leone massacred a village. Anyways, upon breaking from the illusion, Ras killed Tene and continued on his merry way to stop Vildred from absorbing the Archdemon's might by absorbing the Archdemon's might. Alexa, a student of Iseria, informs the leaders of Ezra of the events of last episode, and the leader of the Rose Apostle, Katanka, suggests that they have Ras escorted by the army. However, Charles drops an interesting tidbit of lore, saying only heirs and their guardians can damage the Archdemon and its acolytes. So they instead decide to send Iseria and Yuna to join Ras's party. As Ras and Co continue to the Sanctum, surprise, surprise, they get lost. They're finally able to get on track when Mercedes takes the lead, and Ras starts reminiscing about the protector of the Sanctum, a priest named Morphid, another non-playable character, who had fought alongside Ras in the past. Despite their statements that Morphid would protect the Sanctum from Vildred to the death, both Archie and Ras are a little uncomfortable talking about him. For you see, Morphid is a bit of a, Daichi groupie, and by extension, a Ras groupie. After telling Mercedes about Morphid's enthusiasm for all things Daichi, Ras begs Mercedes to please excuse any racism she may experience from him, since she's a Wraith and all. The party finally arrives at the Sanctum, only to be greeted by a battlefield filled with fallen soldiers who reveal that Vildred has taken Morphid to a land of death for refusing to dispel the barrier. And also, when Mercedes goes to help the wounded soldiers, they freak out, saying they would rather die than be saved by a Wraith. #this is Britannia. Despite Mercedes saying she is used to this type of treatment, Archie tells her that just because she's used to it doesn't mean it's alright, and begs her to stop overlooking this type of treatment. Outwardly, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand. But internally, she's still struggling with the events of last chapter, questioning if her existence is okay, and should someone like her really be traveling with the embodiment of Daichi's will. Archie, noticing that Mercedes is still dejected, begs Ras to try and cheer her up, but Ras wonders if that's the right course of action when nothing has been resolved, because even if he says something now, the world's treatment of Mercedes will still be the same. So his words would only be words, and thus he ultimately doesn't make the attempt. Lands of death are whack. Since there's no life in this land, since it's, a land of death, Ras and Archie, who are powered by creation, life, rainbows, and everything nice, are weaker here. Mercedes is also surprised that there is zero dark magic energy present, and Archie reveals that this is because lands of death weren't created by Ilrios or the Archdemon, but were instead created by Daichi. Dun, dun, dun. Ras is about to order a hit on Archie, but Archie tells him he needs to start telling people the truth. Inspired by Tenebria's dream visions from last episode, Ras agrees and tells Mercedes the secret of the world. Ras asks her if the monsters she's fought in the land of death have seemed weird, and Mercedes says she couldn't sense any dark magic energy or life force from them, so it was akin to fighting a corpse. And Ras tells her that they are distorted creations. They were never given life and exist only in death. So they're like a zombie, except the zombie was never human. So it was like born a zombie. So it was born undead, which means it wasn't really born, it just spawned undead. Anyways, this is a byproduct of the goddess creating beings of life without death, for equivalent exchange demands that there must also be beings of death without life. Mercedes asks if Ras is a being of life without death, and he tells her no, because he can die, as seen in episode 1 of Epic 7 Abridged. But the being of life without death is Orbis, the entire world itself, and he tells her that Orbis has already been destroyed 6 times, but every time it's destroyed, it's reset, and they are currently living on the 7th timeline. However, only a select few can remember these resets, because when Daichi does a timeline reset, she doesn't give everyone the reading Steiner. Thus, with every reset, these distortions, such as the lands of death, become bigger, since each reset makes Daichi weaker, so she's not able to fix the world as perfectly as it once was. Ras tells her, "I'm not gonna lie, the future is pretty grim, with the world being destined to get worse and worse, because even if the Archdemon is defeated, Ilrios will send another until the next reset." He also admits he was scared to tell anyone this, because he was afraid people would lose faith in Daichi and the cause and just give up. However, Mercedes isn't like other girls and tells Ras that she doesn't hate him for hiding this truth, acknowledging it was done with no malice, and above all else, she believes in Ras. And no matter the problem, she's sure that he, notice how she doesn't say we, will solve it. Ras, finally realizing the benefits of talking to people, asks Mercedes if she's been plagued by any problems, and she's just about to answer when the party hears a scream coming from Morphin. So they run off to help him. The party saves him from some monsters, and he tells Ras, "Fear not! I did not comply with Vildred's demands. In fact, my faith is so great that he ran away, afraid Daichi would smite him." Ras notes that this doesn't sound like Vildred, but whatever, let's go to the Takahel ruins. Morphin agrees, but says under no circumstances is the Wraith entering the sanctum, for it is sacred ground to Daichi. Ras protests, no longer putting up with people's racism. However, Mercedes says the mission is more important, and agrees. Mercedes, now on her own, is approached by Sigret, who unfortunately for Ras, is here to steal his girl, and demands that Mercedes return with her and fulfill her destiny. Sigret tells her that homunculi like her and Mercedes were created for a singular purpose by the Archdemon's might, and one cannot escape their meaning for existence. This makes Mercedes consider joining the Archdemon, until she is able to steal her resolve, saying she won't do Ras and Archie like that. Finally, Sigret, realizing that talking is getting her nowhere, attacks, and once again type advantage is thrown out the window when Mercedes wins. All this talk about fate and destiny has made Mercedes realize what she wants to do, so she spares Sigret's life and runs off to find Ras, rejecting her destiny because her true place is alongside Ras, and she would rather die than become his enemy. As they run towards the ruins, Morphin makes Ras and Archie progressively more uncomfortable, saying that even if he devoted his life to worshipping the goddess, it will never be able to repay her kindness bestowed upon this world, and that Ras has many followers, all wholeheartedly believing in hope for a better tomorrow, because with that single word, hope, people can overlook their current hardships and endure, and points out that Ras and Daichi must have a lot of experience with that word, hope. Finally, Ras straight up asks Morphin, asking him if something happened when Vildred took him, and Morphin says, "Ras, good buddy, good pal, why are you doubting me? I have devoted my life to you and the goddess. A life devoted to people who are nothing but liars," and tells Ras that when Vildred took him, he was shown the truth, and asks Ras why he lied, because as long as Daichi protects this world, the Archdemon will always come, and every timeline reset makes the world worse and worse. He yelled at Ras, saying he should have at least told the people who believed in the cause, so that way they could have avoided wasting their lives. Despite all of this, Morphin says he was unable to watch the sanctum he defended for his entire life fall into the hands of the Archdemon. So, he himself has not lowered the barrier. However, he has given Vildred the ability to lower it himself. And as Ras and Archie run off to stop Vildred, he says to himself, he hopes his agony can finally end. Finally, they arrive, and Arby is already waiting for Ras, standing next to a tree and eating an apple. "You're late," he says. Ras apologizes, saying he won't be late to their next date. Scout's honor. Arby reveals that Ras is too late, and he's already absorbed the
35 minutes ago.
and now believes himself to be powerful enough to slay Ras. Ras, though, says, "Wait, I have discovered the power of destruction can be converted into the power of creation, so I can now restore Daichi's lost strength." Arby tells him, "So what? What will happen if you restore Daichi's strength? Will you just restart the cycle of death and rebirth, ultimately bringing everyone back into war? Or will you tell the restored goddess to leave Orbis, which will also stop Elrios from sending archdemons, ending this chain of destruction once and for all?" Vildred laughs, saying, "Of course you won't, because Ras, you are a coward. You have no idea what a world without the goddess is like, and you're unsure if you can overcome that challenge. So like the sniveling coward you are, you'll do the exact same thing you've done since the beginning, until this world is beyond fixing." Arby says, "Ras, you are afraid to forsake the goddess, and afraid to trust the people who believe in you. So of course I cannot trust the fate of this world in your hands. So instead, I, Arbiter Vildred, will absorb the Archdemon's might, kill you, Ras, the heir of the Covenant, and then expel the goddess, halting the sending of the Archdemons, and then I will become the protector of this world."
Amazing.
Ras has no
Every
response,
word of what
because
you just
Vildred is
said
spitting straight facts.
was right.
So they duel. And Vildred stomps Ras, He's about to go for the killing blow when suddenly a bolt of lightning jests through the air straight towards him. He jumps out of the way, and Mercedes reveals herself. She tells Vildred that she won't let him kill Ras like he killed Dien, and teleports Ras and Arky to safety, leaving herself behind to be captured. Arby tells Mercedes she's merely delaying the inevitable, but Mercedes tells him that no, she believes in Ras, and he will overcome this challenge and any other challenge, which just annoys Vildred more as we cut to black. Hours later, Ras is found by Aziria and Yuna. Ras is frustrated that once again he has failed to help someone who believed in him, but Yuna and Aziria reassure him. Aziria tells him that they have to hurry. Vildred will be heading towards the lunar cemetery sanctum in Dusselnork to absorb the last archdemon's might. As they head off, Ras debates with telling them the truth of this world, worried that they'll react similarly to Morphid. Aziria, noticing Ras's internal conflict, tells him to please trust them as much as they trust him. So Ras tells them the truth. And Aziria tells him, Morphin already told us. And personally, I agree with your decision to hide the truth, for it may have made the situation even worse than it is right now, with morale at an all-time low. Yuna adds on, saying she didn't choose to help him because he's the heir of the Covenant, or because Daichi's the goddess of creation, or anything. She chose to help him because, when she was ready to run, he helped her with no ulterior motives, and she doesn't believe in the goddess. She believes in Ras, her friend. Ras comes to the conclusion that yes, some people will react like Morphid and lose hope, but not everyone. Some people are just built different, and will continue to put their faith in him and hope for a peaceful world and fight until the very end, and proclaims that it's time he repaid the trust people put in him by trusting in them. And that's all for this week's episode. Stay tuned as next time Ras is going to meet the Shota King.